In this session, myself, Rochelle Bell, and Mr. Linda Hoyt were given a task to observe a child through the developmental pathways. Myself and Ms. Hoyt would have chosen a child in the early childhood stage to observe two developmental pathways. These two developmental pathways are cognitive pathway and linguistic pathway. In this session, we are going to talk about the cognitive pathway, then the linguistic pathway, and lastly, the overlap between the two developmental pathways. Now let's talk about the cognitive pathway. First, I will give the definition of cognitive pathway. Then we will go into the observation. Cognitive pathway refers to how information is processed, assimilated, and used in an increasingly sophisticated manner as children develop. Now let's go into the case study. In this case study, we looked at the early childhood development stage. As we observe the child through the cognitive pathway, we created 4 different activities for the child to take part in. The first activity was through visual. The child had to observe the object that was given to him and create what he saw. The second activity was mixing colors. We would have noticed that the child was having some trouble with colors, but that didn't stop him from getting to the correct answers. In activity 1 and 2, the child made mistakes when it came to getting the correct colors, but with the question restructure, he eventually came to the correct answers on his second try. In activity 3, we had the child take part in problem solving. We had the child add sets of different objects to have an amount. While observing the child through this activity, the child was well operating to his best ability and was even advanced. So, we therefore moved on to the last activity, where we present a picture and ask the child to explain what was happening in the picture. The child was able to watch and observe well what was happening, but when we asked him to write on the worksheet what was happening, myself and Ms. Hoyt noticed that the child was still developing in his motor skills. In the last 2 activities, the child was well advanced through processing information, through visual, and was even speaking on what he would have learned. To conclude the cognitive pathway in this study case, the child was well operating in his zone of proximal development.
Now that Ms. Bell have completed her observation on the cognitive pathway, I, Ms. Hoyt, will discuss on the linguistic pathway and the interaction between the 2 pathways. To start, I will give a brief definition of the linguistic pathway. Linguistic pathway refers to an individual's ability to understand spoken and written communication. In this case study, we look at the early childhood development, 5-year-old. As we observe the child through the linguistic pathway, we have noticed that the child was well operating in that age range. As we present the first activity, which was sentence structure, he was given a picture of a goat which was drawn, and the child had to complete a sentence through visual. The child was able to look at the picture and say what it was and write the name without a doubt. In the second activity, we went through story time from the book Spot Tricks with the child, and the child was able to answer all questions that was asked, such as what is the name of the story, who named Spot, and what was one trick Spot did. The child was also able to recognize words that were known to him, such as he, is, not, can, and the. In the third activity, which was letter formation, the child was able to form the letter P, but had some difficulties with the letter V. The child also had some challenges forming the letters on the given line. In the fourth activity, the child had to pronounce the words cute and nose, but was unable to pronounce the words because of the silent E. So instead of cute, he said cut, and instead of no, he said no. Now I'm going to look at the interaction between cognitive and linguistic pathways. Language and cognition are closely linked to each other. Language acquisition influences cognitive development, meaning language leads to cognition. For example, in our case study, we had the child take part in one of the activities, which was mixing colors, blue and orange. We asked the child what color was his result. The child responded with a wrong answer, which was dark blue. We then restructured the question by asking him what happened when the two colors were mixed. The child then responded in complete sentence with the correct answer. With that, we saw the overlap and how it affected the child's thinking and how he got to his correct answer. After the case study, it was concluded that both cognitive and linguistic pathway, the child was well developed in the zone of proximal development. In the cognitive pathway, the child was thinking critically and problem solving. And in the linguistic pathway, the child wasn't well spoken in complete sentences, but he was given the correct answers. This has brought us to the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.
A, B, C, D, E. Swish, swish. swish, 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 swish. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 all through the town. The signals on the bus go blink, 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 blink. The signals on the bus go blink, blink, blink,